I want to give a big thank you to all my patrons, of course, my Wildlings, my Night's Watch, and then my Kingsguard, my high tier patrons, Brendan, Scott, Oscar, Stuart, and Pat. Thank you all so much. You're the best. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fantasy Network. I am, of course, Jimmy Nuts, and today we are going to be talking about a major moment that happened in Assassin's Apprentice, which is book 1 of the Farseer Trilogy, that you may have missed. Fair warning, there will be spoilers for book 1 in this video, and I just want to make sure not to spoil anyone. So if you haven't read Assassin's Apprentice, I would suggest that you back out of this video now. But for everyone else who wants to see if they missed this moment, to Buck we go. And don't feel bad if you actually missed this moment, because frankly, I did too on my first read-through. I had my mind blown by Chris Bookish Cauldron, who I had on for a Farseer spoiler discussion, and this is definitely an example of how valuable those discussions can be as readers when we love a series, because I missed this totally. And if it had not been for him, I would have never known. And I think it's a pretty impactful moment. So if you are a huge Realm of the Elderlings fan, or just a Rob and Hobb fan in general, I have spoiler discussions for each entry into the Realm of the Elderlings, and I think there's a lot of value in those conversations, as you're going to see here. So let's talk about the moment in Assassin's Apprentice that a lot of people have missed. This scene comes to us from Chapter 6, which is appropriately titled Chivalry's Shadow. Fitz is going down into the book market to pick up some goods, and he runs into a woman, and I'm going to read the part right now. The woman who presided over the blanket was old, and her hair had gone silver rather than white or gray. She had a strong, straight nose, and her eyes were on bony shelves over her cheeks. It was a racial heritage both strange and oddly familiar to me, and a shiver walked down my back when I suddenly knew she was from the mountains. "Kepit," said the woman at the next mat as I completed my purchase. I glanced at her, thinking she was addressing the woman I had just paid, but she was staring at me. "Kepit," she said quite insistently, and I wondered what it meant in her language. It seemed a request for something, but the older woman only stared coldly into the street. So I shrugged at her younger neighbor apologetically and turned away as I stowed the nuts in my basket. I hadn't got more than a dozen steps away when I heard her shriek, "Kepit!" yet again. I looked back to see the two women engaged in a struggle. The older one gripped the younger one's wrist, and the younger one struggled and thrashed and kicked to get free of her. Around her, other merchants were standing to their feet in alarm and snatching their own merchandise out of harm's way. I might have turned back to watch had not another familiar face met my eyes. So that is the moment in the books, and the familiar face that Fitz sees here, just to remind you, is Nosebleed, aka Molly. But let's talk about this moment and what we've learned. Well, we've learned some really important stuff here. Number 1, this woman that is yelling Kepit, that is Fitz's birth mother. Yes, the mother we saw at the beginning of the story that was giving up Fitz, unwillingly being forced by her father because they simply couldn't feed him, and they wanted Chivalry to take care of him and bear the bill. This is that same exact woman. And one of the most telling signs is the fact that she is from the mountains, and we know that Fitz's mother was from the mountain region. And as that becomes clear, the second point becomes very obvious. Fitz's real name, his real birth name, is Kepit. It's not Fitz, obviously, that he's been Don, and being named something has been very important to Fitz. He's been called all types of things, but his real name is Kepit. You have to think about, after all this time, his real mother is still distraught at the loss of her son. Clearly at the beginning of the book, she did not want to give up Fitz. And the fact that she is still mourning the loss, then comes face to face with her son who does not recognize her, is so tragic. And then when you think about it further, it's even worse, because Fitz has been lost ever since he's come to Buck. He hasn't really had a place. His father has not really acknowledged him at all. Burrich is taking care of him, but he doesn't have a connection at this point in the story. And the only person that would undeniably love him would be his mother, would give him a place, would give him a real name, and he cannot recognize her at all. I think of all the heartbreaks that have come in Realm of the Elderlings, this has to be in the top. So obviously we've learned some major things from this moment, but I also think that there's some takeaways, and really there's just one question that remains. If we think back to when King Shrewd put the pin on Fitz and took Fitz in as a tool to his cabinet, you have to wonder, did King Shrewd have something to do with Fitz's lack of memory of his mother? Fitz seems to have some sort of amnesia, and the weird thing is that Fitz came to Buck whenever he was really 6 years old, and many people in the story even address Fitz and are thinking it's very odd that he cannot recall things from his childhood and who his mother might have been. They say things like, did you come here when you were 2 years old? No, he was 6. He should have had memories of his mother. And the more I think on it and read further into Realm of the Elderlings, I do believe Shrewd had used the skill to wipe Fitz's memory of his mother. And for this, Fitz becomes a better tool to the Crowned in the Farseer reign. And then we have to ask the further question, how does that change our perspective as the reader on King Shrewd, a person who's pretty well beloved in the story? For me, it dampens it quite a bit. But this is what I want to know from you down in the comments. Do you think King Shrewd had something to do with Fitz's, we'll call it amnesia? And if so, does it make you look at King Shrewd differently? I'd also just love to hear if you saw this moment, if you realized it when it happened, because I totally missed it. And I'm so thankful for Chris Bookish Cauldron coming on and talking spoilers with me and revealing this moment. And I wanted to make this video because I feel like this is a major moment in Fitz's life, even if he doesn't realize it. And this is also an excellent example of why Robin Hobb, in my opinion, is one of the very best in all of fantasy. She's a top-tier writer that pays attention to detail and can slip something in that can change the whole perspective of another character. And while you're down there answering those questions in the comments, make sure to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I also have a link to my Patreon in the description. I want to thank you for taking your time to watch this video, and I would like to do more like it. So if you enjoyed this type of video, please let me know down in the comments. This is also very new to me, but this is something that I really enjoyed doing. I liked making this project, and I like bringing more notoriety to these moments that are very subtle but have a huge impact in Realm of the Elderlings and other book series as well. So until I see you next time, be good, be safe, and remember to always keep turning the page.